It's kind of depressing to see alts run because that usually brings us back down as a whole.
The last Bitcoin rally seems to be running out of steam, and now altcoins are stealing the spotlight. But for Bitcoin maximalist Samson Mow, that's just noise. According to him, the real bull market hasn't even started yet.
The bull market has legs, and I think we can go probably anywhere up to 500,000 to a million in the next 12 months.
In this interview, we sat down with Samson to explore Bitcoin's potential for the second half of 2025 and why he believes the best is still to come. Before we get started, as usual, this video is not financial advice, just educational content. Do your own research before investing in crypto. I'm Giovanni, let's get started. I saw a statement that you put out on Twitter where you were saying that this is just the start of this bull run. This is a pretty bold statement. How would you back it up?
Well, if you break down the inflation rate, the real inflation rate, and you peg it to something real like eggs, you get 11% annually. So if you apply that to the previous all-time high in 2021, that takes us to somewhere around 101K. So, that's kind of the floor. That's just keeping up with inflation. That's Bitcoin just keeping up with inflation. So 120K, 130K, that means you're beating inflation by 20% over a 4-year period or 30% over a 4-year period, which is not really spectacular. So I think we have a lot of room to run. The bull market has legs, and I think we can go probably anywhere up to 500,000 to a million in the next 12 months, because this is also a delayed market movement too. If you think about it, we should have ran already. We should already have been at 200,000 a coin, and we're still at 120.
Seems that you are expecting Bitcoin just on by default to do great things. Why you think that the 200K benchmark is more of a adequate one compared to where we are now?
Well, it has to do with all the adoption happening in the world today. You have countries adopting Bitcoin. You have the ETFs, which are just taking in a massive amount of capital and eliminate the bottleneck for moving capital into Bitcoin from legacy markets. There is no more barrier. And then you have companies like Strategy and now Blockstream that are also moving into the treasury space. And Strategy alone has accumulated 600,000 plus Bitcoin. So, just like doing quick back of the napkin math, it just doesn't seem possible that we are still hovering around, inflation adjusted Bitcoin all-time highs from 4 years ago at 100 to 120,000. We should be well over 200,000 just by my approximate estimate.
We see that there are also other catalysts. The first one is the Genius Act regarding stablecoins. A lot of people are particularly bullish on the Genius Act because it has the potential to integrate the stablecoins into the US economy. What is your view on this and its potential impact on Bitcoin and the crypto markets in general?
Well, I think this has a lot less to do with Bitcoin than just the markets in general for the US. So the Genius Act, it adds clarity, but I don't think it changes fundamentally anything about Bitcoin. It gives a better structure and guidance on stablecoin issuers, and that is good for stablecoin issuers. But even without that, I see stablecoins continuing to grow. This is just the US government becoming more comfortable with the idea of stablecoins and the fact that stablecoins like Tether are just taking up a massive amount of treasury buys and holdings equivalent to countries. I think Tether is ranked somewhere in the top 20 now of all holders of UST bills. The fact is Bitcoin and stablecoins are now integrated into the US economy permanently and in a very deep way. I think what is interesting for Bitcoin is one, the audit of Fort Knox as we've been promised, and two, passing of the Bitcoin Act from Cynthia Lummis that would allow the US to actively accumulate Bitcoin. Now, there's a bit of other interesting news that came out today, which was a reporter filed some freedom of information requests and found that the U.S. Marshals only have about 28,000 Bitcoin now, I believe. and that's a lot less than was expected. So I think these bills currently in motion or on the table are missing the bigger picture. The bigger picture is that the US needs to accumulate Bitcoin very, very rapidly if it wants to have a significant Bitcoin reserve treasury. So the window is closing. And I'm not sure they really realize that yet now, because if they did, they would be talking about the Bitcoin Act, not these other bills.
I know that you are, of course, a Bitcoin maximalist, but I'm just looking at a lot of chats on X about an altcoin season coming up because we saw the Ethereum price going up and the Bitcoin dominance decreasing. What do you think? Is it an inversion of the trend we have seen in the past months?
It's kind of depressing to see alts run because that usually brings us back down as a whole. So Bitcoin rises, and then the people that are investing in altcoins make some money, and then they pump their coins, right? So it's always a cycle. We Bitcoin goes up, it leads the pack, and then you see alts run a bit, and then things come back down, and all the investors in altcoins get liquidated, or you know they blow up somehow, or something happens, and then Bitcoin comes down along with it a little bit, and then we go back up. But the cycle rinses and repeats over and over and over. I don't really worry too much about the alts because they're all very um, small cap coins, and compared to Bitcoin, it doesn't really matter. They can easily manipulate the floats and move their prices, and they can drive their prices through direct announcements like Ripple trying to do business, right? Like, what is Ripple? It's a company now, but it has a crypto coin. But in real world, that should technically be a stock or a security. But here we are. But I'm not really worried about that. I think in the long run, Bitcoin dominance will continue to increase, and I think this might be the final alt season if there is one. But it doesn't look very promising.
Let's talk about another catalyst that is moving this market, which is the continued purchase of Bitcoin from Bitcoin treasury companies. Some analysts are saying that the next crypto bear market will be triggered by some of these companies going belly up and essentially create a ripple effect similar to the ones we saw in previous uh, crashes like in 2022 with other major players in the industry. Do you see such a risk as a possibility?
It's definitely a concern, especially with altcoin treasury companies. I don't see it ending well for any company that is taking Ethereum or Solana or anything as a reserve asset. I think those will end up very badly in the long run. And I don't know if that will have a cascading impact on Bitcoin. I see if there is a big run up and a drawdown, like similar to previous cycles, that some of the Bitcoin treasury companies, the smaller ones, might fold, especially if their CEOs don't understand what it is that they're holding. I see it less as a risk with MicroStrategy or strategy rather, because Saylor has proved himself through one of the biggest bear markets that we've had in recent years, and he's held and he's kept on accumulating. The newer entrants, it's it's unsure whether they have the fortitude to survive a drawdown. I think many of them are just copying, trying to fast follow strategy, and that's definitely a red flag in my view. So I would say the bigger ones, or at least companies like Blockstream, helmed by Adam Back, are less risky because Adam understands Bitcoin to the fullest extent possible, and that means it's a safer investment. But smaller ones, I would definitely say no, and definitely altcoin treasury companies, I wouldn't touch those with a 100-foot pole.
So states buying Bitcoin for their reserves. We've been advising several governments in the world regarding this, but we still don't see many examples all over the world. So what do you think is the main challenge for the average government to come on board with something like that?
The biggest challenge for most governments and nation state adoption in general is just red tape. it takes a lot of effort to get something done, and not every country has a central leader that can just pass a law. There's a lot of deliberation, discussion, and you see this again in the US, right? Like, it's a very chaotic, fragmented procedure to get anything passed. And this is the biggest barrier, I think, to nation state adoption. We've tried a lot at Jan 3 to try to follow the top down approach and engage the governments to educate them and see if they will pass some laws. But we've shifted our strategy a bit since then to take smaller projects like sandbox projects, or creating special economic zones, or rolling out some prototype kind of test projects, if you will. And I think this is probably more pragmatic because that gets them into the Bitcoin game at a much smaller scale, and a scale which they're comfortable with. I think getting a country to make Bitcoin legal tender is much harder and far longer a path to adoption than people expect.
Some people are saying that with this pace, in a few years, these companies will hold the majority of all available Bitcoin. There will be very little left for ordinary people, people that perhaps the so-called unbanked people in the third world countries that should benefit the most from this technology to purchase Bitcoin cheap. So don't you think that this process is a little bit going against the democratization of Bitcoin?
Well, you could think that for sure, that all the corporations will get all the Bitcoin, or nation states will get all the Bitcoin. Now, is it actually possible that billions of people around the world get physical Bitcoin that they themselves hold and front run the massive financial industrial complex? I'm really not sure, because the biggest barrier to people adopting Bitcoin is themselves and not understanding Bitcoin. And I think price is definitely a factor that makes people want to have Bitcoin. So people want Bitcoin at you know, 0.12 million or 0.2 million or 0.5 million, but they don't want Bitcoin when it drops to zero point zero 0.08 or zero point zero 0.09. So this is just the way it's been and the way it always will be. People will just get Bitcoin at higher and higher prices, and there will just be less and less Bitcoin available for them because of all these other actors scooping up all available coins. Now, that's not to say we can't do anything about it. And Gen 3's other initiative is Aqua, and trying to onboard the next billion people into Bitcoin. So I think there are groups like us that are actively trying to get more people on board.
This has been mostly a bull run driven by institutions um, and very little involvement from retail. But maybe now I'm seeing that Bitcoin is being talked about a lot in the mainstream press. Do you expect now a wave of retail investors suddenly waking up to this new rally?
No, I think this is not yet the rally. I think they'll start waking up at zero point 0.2 million or 200,000 a coin. I would say retail is still sleeping on this. And anecdotally, most people I know have said, you know, their friends and family are not reaching out to them yet to ask about Bitcoin. So we're not even close to peak retail awareness or retail mania. But, you know, once you cross that next cognitive threshold of zero point 0.2 M, that's what people think, okay, I'm missing out and I need to get this. And that's when they start piling in.
Last time we talked in November last year, you were predicting that 2025 was going to be the year of $1 million for Bitcoin. Do you still stand by that prediction?
I still do, but it seems like we were not close to it yet. We still need to do like a 8x from here to get 1 million. So maybe 2026. But I don't discount the possibility that we can have a very rapid run up in the next 6 months if all factors line up and you do have retail coming on board.
Samson, thanks a lot for the conversation.
Yeah. Thanks, Giovanni. It's been fun.